Welcome to the Headbangers at the Hangar podcast. I am your host, Andrew Mercer. For all returning listeners, thank you very much for the support. If you are a new listener to the show, welcome. We are Headbangers at the Hangar. We cover all things heavy metal, and I like to sprinkle in some UFO, paranormal stuff as well. So if you're new to the show, I hope you like it. I have a great interview for this episode. I talked with Stephen Keeler, who, this is intended to go everywhere, right? Like overseas, different parts of the U.S., wherever people love heavy metal, I hope it gets to them. But there's kind of a local flavor to this episode. So I live in a town called Middletown, New York, in Orange County. It's about an hour and a half away from New York City, for those of you in other parts of the country. And in this town, we have a record store called Rock Fantasy. Now, there are not a lot of record stores left, but this is one that's right in my town. It's a super cool store. Steven is a really awesome guy. It was a great conversation. You'll hear more about it. But it was funny too, because we live so close, right? My house is literally 5 minutes from the store, and booking Steve to get him to do the interview, he was probably the hardest guest for us to kind of line up schedules, you know. And it's funny because we're so close. Like, I interviewed somebody in Arizona, of course, Karen, the artist. Another great interview. Check that out on YouTube if you missed it. But it was just funny. But we finally locked up. We did the interview last night at 9 p.m. People who know me are like, whoa, 9 p.m. I'm up at 5 every day. So I like to be in bed by, I like to be asleep by 9 p.m. usually. But, we kind of went back and forth on some dates, some times. We weren't quite linking up. And he gave me 9 o'clock last night. And I said, you know what, fuck it. Let's do it. I might never get this interview again, so we did it. It was a great interview. Before we get to that, just want to thank my last guest, Jeff Powd. That just dropped yesterday. It's funny how podcasts work, right? I went a while without doing one, just because I was busy trying to find guests and stuff. But here I am. I'm going to have 2 episodes airing back to back, so go figure. But Jeff, if you already heard the episode, you know he is a sick guitarist, completely nasty. If you have not heard it yet, guys, check it out on my YouTube channel, Headbangers at the Hangar. So thank you to Jeff. And, this interview I have coming up, it was really good because Stephen was very honest about things. Obviously, interviewing somebody, you don't want to pry about their financial status, right? Like, you think a record shop, right off the bat, you're thinking, okay, over the years, you must have hit some snags. Obviously, I didn't want to ask numbers, but he was very honest. He told me, specifically when were some situations where he thought they were going to close the shop, but you know what? Good for him, man. He kept fighting, and they reinvent themselves. Whatever is hot at the time, they try to get in on it. They do like a pinball thing over there. They got a bunch of different things going on. So, he's made it, and the shop is going strong, which is very promising. The industry, it's changed so much, and I'm in my early 30s. So when I grew up, I started out with cassettes. I remember, some of my earliest memories, music-wise, for Easter, I got a Will Smith cassette. I think it was Miami. So we were getting cassettes, and then as the years went on, we did CDs. And then iTunes came along, which Stephen details in the interview how it affected his business. But, that completely changed the game, because you didn't really need the CDs anymore. Well, it depends. I still got the CDs, and I would put them on my computer. I then transferred over to the iPod, but a lot of people, they just bought it off of iTunes, and it was just digital. You didn't have a hard copy, So, now we have Spotify, and all of a sudden vinyls have have come back. The industry has changed, and that's why it's so impressive that rock fantasy's been around for so long. They've been around for decades. You know, they've weathered it all, and that's a true testament to Steve, man. I told him he is a living legend, and hopefully it doesn't get to this point where it's like you don't know what you have until it's gone, because they're going super strong. But I hope we never see the day where music in its physical form is gone from us. You know, like we should, of course you listen to it, that's what music is, but there's nothing like, you know, that feeling when, you know, it's Christmas and you open up the wrapping paper and you're holding a CD, or like posters over here. Like I have an AC/DC wall plate. Like that's part of it, man. Like if that ever goes, it's gonna be disappointing. So, Steve, he also does this show, Rock Fantasy Files, on YouTube. They are killing it over there. Some great numbers. I'm actually going to hop on an episode probably next week where we're going to break down the Deftones, which is one of my favorite bands. I think specifically we're going to go into Around the Fur, and we're going to tap into Untouchables by Korn. Both of those albums, they have anniversaries. Steve is very thorough with these anniversaries. He likes, if something's 20 years, 25 years, he likes to discuss it with a lot of people on the panel. And so check that out after you check this out. So you'll have two shows that you are active listeners to. Of course, Headbangers at the Hangar, and now Rock Fantasy Files. So we're about to get to the interview, but I'm going to start doing something new for the channel. I already had the reaction video idea kind of in the back of my mind, but talking to Jeff yesterday, it really, you know, it's gonna bring me over. I'm gonna start doing reaction videos. It's a good way for me to engage. I'm a busy guy, right? Like, believe it or not, this is not my full-time job. I have a full-time job. I have a family. I play music, I play shows, I'm in the middle of recording music, you know, mixing, editing. So I have a lot of stuff going on. It's not always so easy to just record a podcast in long form, and of course you have to try to get the guests and stuff. So this is a nice way for me to kind of engage with the audience, and it's a good way also for me to keep up to date with some of the newer bands, which admittedly I'm not always the best about. There's been some guests where I'll ask what they're listening to, you know, as far as newer bands go, and they give me some bands that I have never heard of. So it's a cool way for me to kind of stay informed, stay engaged with the audience. Of course, we'll have our podcasts, but I'm going to try to do a reaction video every week. So if you have something right off the top of your head, a song that you want me to react to, assuming that I have not heard it before, I will react to it. I already have a song in mind. I don't want to say what it is, but it's by a band that has an album coming out next week. So, and I have not heard any music by this band. So I'm going to start doing reaction videos. Guys, let's get to the interview. Stephen Keeler of Rock Fantasy and Rock Fantasy Files. Just a reminder, we are Headbangers at the Hangar. If you want to participate in the show, send me an email, headbangersatthehangar@gmail.com. Hangar is spelled Hangar. You can email me if you want to get on the show. If you're in a band and you want to promote the band, send me an email, I'll have you on. If you want to email me and tell me topics you want me to discuss in either the metal world or the alien UFO world, shoot me an email. I'll talk about it. Anything you want me to bring up on the show, any way you could be a part of it, shoot an email. I will respond to you. I'm very receptive. All right? So without further ado, here he is, the legend himself, Stephen Keeler. Hey, Stephen, how's it going?
Hey, man, what's happening? Rock on.
It took us a little bit to get here, which is... It's kind of ironic because my house is like 5 minutes from your shop, but we're both really busy guys, you know. So we finally did.
Two times I completely spaced you.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't worry about it. So I drive by the shop all the time. You got a new sign out front over there So you guys opened up in 1985, right?
The Rock Fantasy store actually opened up in 1979. It was called Rock and Roll Fantasy. It was located, and if anyone's watching that's from the Middletown area, it was located in a storefront. It's where the Wendy's on 211 is now. It lasted for about 3 months. We got broken into, and we never reopened. We tried to move downtown. As soon as we tried to open in downtown Middletown, they found out that I was a head shop. And, at that time I was mainly a head shop, and I sold concert shirts. I didn't have, per se, the records and stuff yet then. And then we didn't make it, and I started doing fairs and flea markets, that kind of a circuit, until 1985. Yes, I opened November 5th, 1985 with the brick and mortar in downtown Middletown. It's moved 3 times since then, and we're currently at 12 East Main Street. And we also have a website. You can reach us at www.rockfantasy.com, and you can buy all around the world with that, or at least United States right now. And we're currently working out a T-shirt deal where you can buy our shirts pretty much internationally. Some of the Rock Fantasy logo shirts. Yep.
Nice. So when you say head shop, just what is that? What is that term?
Well, if a head shop is something that's been around for years. It's also known as a smoke shop. So.
Oh, okay, okay.
Our store, if someone's watching this for the first time, doesn't know anything about me, the store is, as you walk into the, I don't know, you've been to the new location,
yeah.
Obviously. You walk into the shop, and to the left side as you walk in, there's the record shop and T-shirts and CDs. And if you go to the right is our smoke shop. We're one of the oldest smoke shops in the area. Of course, there's a lot of smoke shops opening now because something became legal in New York State recently.
Yeah.
So
obviously you own a business and stuff, so I don't know how far you want to get into this, but so obviously it's are you a smoker?
I have smoked on and off all my life. I'm 61 years old. I'm going to let everyone know how freaking old I am, but I guess I kind of already did. I had a store in 79 when I dropped out of high school. So, I've been doing this all my life. But I smoke occasionally. Now, even during the pandemic, I had stopped for years. I dabble here and there, but it always doesn't agree with me all the time. But during the pandemic, both of my doctors, one of my personal doctors and a friend that's a doctor, said, "Hey, Steve, you smoking now?" I'm like, "Nah." He goes, "Maybe you should. It's good." It seems like they were giving me advice to, smoke here and there. So I do like to partake on the weekends a little bit. Like, I try to stay focused all during the week. And Saturday night comes, I'll have a little puff and, some drinks. And Sunday I usually just kind of chill out. It helps me get away from everything going on in the world right now, because it's not a pretty place we're living in. Right
now. It's not. So obviously we're talking about smoking, marijuana, pot. What during the years, like, what was like, when was that at its height? When were people, going crazy with that? Was that back in those 70s?
When I first opened my shop in '85, I didn't have pipes. When the beginning part of Rock Fantasy, we had pipes, but in '85, it was very taboo in the '80s to sell, tobacco pipes, which we know, at that time you had to say it's illegal for legal use only.
Yeah. And even on your website, you guys have.
Yeah, we still have that, and I mean we still do, because things are just changing so quickly now, and we're in. I'm losing my mind track on my thought track on this, but back then in the '80s, in fact, there was a place. The big head shop around here was in Poughkeepsie. It was called Record City. It was also a famous place to go buy records. It was similar to my store, without the pinball machines, which we haven't gone into yet. I got 40 pinball machines in the shop, and I get all the brand new games from the distributors for that too. But back then there was a couple head shops in the Hudson Valley, and there was very few of us, and they got raided. like literally got their, stuff confiscated. If that happened to me, I would have been out of business because I was just a young kid with a
Yeah.
couple grand to start the business at that time. So I played it dumb. I think for the first year or so in town, I opened up to sell records. In 85, you couldn't get Metallica records. You couldn't get, like, you got a Slayer shirt on. You couldn't get that underground metal stuff. And I opened up to fill that need, and we started selling, like, a lot of thrash metal and Venom and the concert shirts and those back patches you'd put on the denim jackets, which have come back now. Like, we call that the battle jacket.
Yeah, they
We
have.
put the patches and the buttons and all that on there. So yeah, that's what the store was full of in those days. And one day I got a box of pipes by accident, and we said, you know what, we'll put them out. It was from a store that I got, a distributor I got posters and stuff from. And I said, if somebody says something, we were right next to the police station then for years too. Somebody
Yeah.
said something, we'll just say, yeah, we'll take them out. But since then, knock on wood,
They sold quick, right?
find some wood, and everything's been good with that. And I mean, it's tough now because there's a million smoke shops opening up in New York State because of the legality now that it's going legal. I mean, the dispensaries aren't set up here except for medical still. I don't know when that's going to happen. You'd think sooner than later, but I haven't heard anything about the actual legal, not the medical part, opening up. I don't know whether the same dispensaries are going to be the ones that are selling the actual product or not. It's going to be a complicated process, I think.
Yeah,
You know.
I'm not a smoker. Like I like to
Hmm.
drink.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I just never liked it, but I would for sure feel more comfortable if it was more regulated. That's just my personal opinion.
Well,
Like
now it is. Now it will be. I mean, when
yeah,
you go to the dispensary, you're going to get to pick out whatever you want. Like
yeah,
now, if you have a medical license, a medical card, you go and you tell them, well, I have anxiety. They're going to give you a certain, strain that's going to help you with that.
yeah,
So,
for sure. All right, so let's go back to the early days of the store. We're talking like 85, 86. So when you
Mhm.
officially like opens into more of what you are today, where it was a lot of
Yeah.
music, what was the initial reception? Was business good? Was it a little bit of a struggle?
Of course, it's been a struggle for the years forever. Now it's still a struggle in 2022, of course, with the pandemic and everything the last 2 years. But yeah, it was, you didn't. When I opened that shop, I had no idea that it would be in business for 5 years or 10 years. But it just kept going. At the time, people started traveling to come in because we had a product you couldn't get normally. Like, you couldn't get some of the real underground metal at the mall stores. Back then there was a million record shops around. Now there's hardly any because, of Spotify and, what iTunes and whatever else, with
Yeah.
everything going digital. And we actually got rid of our vinyl bins. I'm changing the subject a little bit, but we had, records when we first opened and cassettes in 85. And towards around 1990, around then, the compact disc came out. And I had a girl that came and worked for me, that worked for Metal Blade Records, and she was from town. And I met her through the record companies, and she started working for me. She goes, Steve, you got to get these compact discs. And, and I was like, nah, we're just going to sell records. And then, we started selling the CDs, and that was big. And then the records died. I mean, we took the record racks and we busted them up and sent them to the dump because we didn't think anyone was going to buy vinyl again, especially in those 90s years where nobody was buying turntables, nobody wanted the records, they were giving them away. And
Yeah.
now vinyl has come back full circle and we're able to sell music again. Let's face it, the CDs went down. We still sell a lot of CDs in the shop, actually, because especially I'd say the metal community I'd say a lot of the people like to actually have the product or have, like, I'm sitting in a room full of vinyl now because this is a room where I listen to everything and I do my YouTube vlog, The Rock Fantasy Files. I call this was my 80s living room. And
Got some Dracula stuff back there.
I turned it into my sanctuary during the pandemic, so I'm out in this room a lot, and this is where I listen to music. We got all, we sell all these toys in the store. You see the Dracula stuff, the Super 7 reaction figures. one of the things we sell in the shop now. But yeah, it was a struggle back then. We dove into comic books in '89 too. We turned into this. We've kind of rolled with the changes with the shop over the years. If something was popular, we would add it. So in the late '80s, comic books got really popular with the Batman movie and all that came out. We started doing comics. It almost put me out of business though. I just about went bankrupt with comic books. So
Why
that
is
was a
that?
very,
Because they cost a lot for you to acquire them?
you know what it was? We didn't know, we were green to that. We didn't really know about it that much, and we were just selling. And you couldn't return it. Like if you bought like 100 Aquaman comics, you couldn't take it back. So we just got stuck. We got out of that. We got back into the metal and the rock and roll in the '90s, and then we got into the pro wrestling business in the late '90s. Pro wrestling was huge, and
Yep.
we were the first people on the East Coast that had the ECW T-shirts from the Extreme Championship Wrestling out of Philly, and we used to sell wrestling shirts. We started doing the flea markets and fairs and everything again, just selling the rock shirts, but mostly wrestling shirts then. So now we've rolled with the changes, and then we had pinball in the '90s, and we brought pinball in heavy now. I mean, we have over 40 pinball machines in the shop, and we have them in halls that are full of blacklight posters. We try to give the customer an experience you don't get at a normal store. We try to give you a different kind of experience at Rock Fantasy. Like
Yeah,
a rock.
it's definitely unique in there. I wasn't always from Middletown. I moved here like maybe 6 years ago. I'm from Wappingers over in Dutchess
Okay.
County.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
everybody I tell like who I haven't seen in a while from over there, I'm like, yeah, I
yeah,
moved to Middletown. And they're
yeah.
always like, "Yeah, I play pinball over there at Rock Fantasy."
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't do the pinball thing per se, but there's a lot of people that are really into it.
And I tell you, you might want to try it. It's kind of fun. I mean, if you're a music fan, we have the last several years, Stern Pinball and even Spooky and Jersey Jack Pinball have released a lot of rock and roll ones. Everything from like the classic rock bands, I guess, like Zeppelin and
You just got a
Aerosmith.
Rush one, right?
The Rush is brand new. That just came out.
Yeah, I saw that on your Facebook. You're very active on there, which is good.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, used to advertise on the radio stations and everything, but who listens to that now? Everybody's got their own way of listening to music. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but
So
yeah, pinball. Everything from the old. We have almost every rock and roll pinball machine ever made. We just acquired an Elton John one recently, which was made in '75. So we have everything from that to like the brand new Rush and the Rob Zombie and the Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden. So. And
nice.
plus, we have like titles like Mandalorian and Walking Dead. Walking Dead, actually, we transformed the game. We put a different soundtrack into it, and it plays all Slayer music.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you got the Slayer, sir. I wanted to run that
Cool,
in.
man. Nice. So were you a big Who fan growing up? Pinball Wizard?
I always liked the song, sure. The pinball thing is something that I grew up doing when I was a kid. My parents would take me to the Jersey Shore in the '60s and '70s, and they'd go off to the beach and they'd give me a little money, and I'd just go to the arcades and play. I mean, that even portrayed into the early '80s with the video games. I just loved arcades and loved rock and roll, so I kind of turned everything I like into a business, and I'm very blessed to be able to do that.
So you said you were 61. Let's say you're like as a 13-year-old kid. What were like the big bands back then?
Dude, when I was 13 years old, I want to tell you, I wasn't really listening to rock. I was listening to AM radio. So, I mean, you had everything on the radio back then. Everything from, Black Sabbath was on AM radio to, the Jackson 5. It was a mock of all different great music back then. Right in that time period, I was listening to a lot of soul. I still do. I listen to the Temptations, a lot of Motown, a lot of AM top 40 stuff from back then was what I was listening to. I was in with a bunch of friends at that time, and that's what we listened to. We watched Soul Train and all that stuff. But probably mid 70s is when I turned into literally being exposed to rock and roll and Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper and that type, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, that type of stuff. And it just, it just came off from there. I started selling at the flea markets. I started selling concert shirts and stuff like that. And so that's what got me into it. I really enjoyed selling that kind of stuff. I worked at the fairs and all that stuff over the years. So it's kind of like a carny too. So.
Are you from Middletown? Have you been here your whole life?
I'm born and raised here, and I still live in the same house that I was a kid in. My parents moved out in the 90s, and I took over the house. It worked out well because I could walk to work. I live over by I live by the college, so and you know how close we are. You're close, so yeah. I'm still in the same house from back in the day. So yeah, I'm born and raised Middletown, New Yorker.
Okay, so back in the earlier days, talking like the 80s into like the mid 90s, like what is an item or two that you can remember that just really sold really well, like you couldn't keep it on the shelves at all?
Are you talking music wise?
Yeah, we'll talk music, sure. Were people buying a lot of grunge stuff, a lot of Metallica?
In the 80s, we primarily, you think 80s metal, you probably think Motley Crue and Poison and stuff. That we weren't the store you went.
Yeah, it doesn't seem your guys' vibe.
We were like, that was really the commercial stuff at the time. We did sell that, but you came into my store and you were looking for the thrash metal or the underground metal. And of course, anytime a new release would come out, back then you weren't allowed to sell. The new releases would come out on Tuesday. We used to do midnight sales. Like midnight Monday night, you would have a sale, and it was the weirdest thing ever. And people would come out and wait in line to buy a record on a Monday night.
At midnight?
Yeah, midnight, because you weren't allowed legally to sell it until Tuesday. So we used to do stuff like that. So I can remember, like when certain records would come out, you would get busy.
Like what? What were some big ones? Like, was Nevermind huge when it came out? Like what?
You're going into the 90s, yeah. 9 Inch Nails. I mean, you went from. I mean, back then, of course, death metal. Like everybody said, we were just talking about this in an episode we just did on my channel. How like people say that grunge killed metal. It might have killed like the hair metal and in the commercial metal stuff.
Yeah.
But it didn't kill metal per se, because death metal and black metal were kind of born in the 90s, late 80s into the 90s, and that underground part was there, and that's what my store really sold a lot. But yeah, we sold tons of Nirvana. I mean, back then, even like Metallica, the Black Album was huge. They're more commercial stuff, but I can remember selling tons of that when that came out. Yeah, Nevermind. We used to sell these clocks where you would take like a poster, and this guy used to shellac it and cut it out and have a clock inside. We used to sell tons of those. 9 Inch Nails was big. Typo Negative. It was a mix mosh of like the grunge stuff coming in. Alice in Chains. We did an in-store with the band Alice in Chains in '91. I believe it was '91. They were playing the fairgrounds. Of course, Orange County Fair Speedway at that time had all the major arena shows, the same that would have at SPAC or Garden State Art Center, or even some, the Garden, would all come to Orange County.
Metallica was over there, right?
Metallica played Middletown actually 3 times, yes. Yep. But the show I'm talking about, it was Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. I got a call from Epic Records a few weeks before that, and they said, would you like to do an in-store with a band called Alice in Chains? I'm like, well, they're a new band. I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I would take an in-store with anybody because I knew it would draw attention to the shop and we'd have, people come out. So it was Alice in Chains. No one really knew who they were. Their music was nothing like that thrash metal show they were on, which was called Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
And they came in the shop and we had a really big turnout for them. They had start getting airplay on that album Facelift. And I tell you what, probably 3 or 4 months later, they blossomed into this huge band. And they also did come back and play Middletown at a place called The Class, which is now I think it's still called 28 West. It's been empty for years. It's down across by near Holy Dog, or from Festival Square, where they do like the tree lighting at Christmas and stuff.
Hmm.
That club, that's where they came back and played there. So yeah, stuff like that was big, like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, of course, from the early '90s. Those were bands that we sold a lot of course.
Yeah. So how did back then? Obviously, Lane had drug issues, which ended up
Mm-hmm.
killing him. How were they back then when they came? Were they all right, or could you tell they
You know
were?
what? They were cool. They were really cool. I mean, they weren't, it wasn't like we could sit and have dinner with them. They came in, they were wished in, they sat at the table, they signed autographs for a while. Had a couple, I have photos, of course, from that still, and some in the shop. Had a couple girls working there, and I think one of the girls got hung out with them that night, probably at the show at the fair. There's some great stories of Alice in Chains in town, especially with Andrew Freeman, who's the current vocalist for Last in Line. He grew up in here. He lives out in Vegas now. Does a lot with bands, and he can tell you stories because he used to drive them around. He was the guy that picked them up and drove them to the gig, drove them to the hotel, like the runner. So great Alice in Chains stories. But yeah, they were very cool to deal with, and very no attitudes.
Yeah.
Most bands never really had attitude. We had a lot of bands over the years at the shop. We don't have as many now because we don't have a venue. If we had a venue close, we would have more bands, especially back then, because the record companies would want them in the shop. Now the bands do like meet and greets to help pay for the tours, so they don't do as much in-store signings. So they want you to pay the extra like $50 or whatever at the gig, so you go get a photo with them, or whatever.
Yeah, you
That
are right
stuff like
about that. I mean, any kind of bigger band you want to see, you're going to Poughkeepsie. You're probably going to the Chance, or if they're
that.
a little bigger than that, the Civic Center when it opens up. But like even Newburgh or anything in Orange County, really. I mean, yeah, there's like you
There's
said,
no
there's no big venue.
we're kind of a wasteland for live music. The one place that is trying to bring music back, I mean, of course, one of our bigger venues is Bethel Woods, of course, but it doesn't do a lot
Yeah,
of heavier stuff.
yeah,
I mean, Bethel Woods, of
and
course, the Woodstock site,
people playing there, they're not going to necessarily look to drive to Middletown, like
No, it's too far.
45 minutes away.
That's the thing. They're like as far as the Chance are. We don't have a venue here. We do have Orange County Fairgrounds, which is now as a company called OME, which is kind of based by Bowery Electric, which is out of New York City. They're booking the entertainment at the fairgrounds and also in Sugarloaf at the Performing Arts Center. So I was contacted by them recently, and they're trying to bring concerts back. They did a few last summer, national acts. They had Cheap Trick, and they had, I forget who all else,
Well,
but
they just had Scotty McCreery over there. That's not rock and roll metal. That's not what we're talking about. But he's a
a
pretty
national act. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's a big country act. So they're getting
They
bands
did
over there.
okay with them. They're bringing in a metal show, which is an '80s glam metal kind of thing. It's Tommy Kiefer of Cinderella with LA Guns and Faster Pussycat.
All right.
That's June 3rd. That's going to be outdoors at the fairgrounds, where they put the barn there, and they redid the barn, and they have a stage, and then you can go kind of like an amphitheater setup. You can buy a VIP ticket if you want to be right up front, or you can just bring your lawn chair or a blanket and sit up on the lawn and go to the show. So it's nice that they're trying to do some stuff, right in town again like that.
Yeah, last summer we went to an Iron Maiden cover band was over there. And
I was there.
Yeah, it was packed. So we had a good time.
Yeah.
I
The
had a
Iron
couple.
Maidens were there. I got to introduce them. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, they plan
Oh,
on
did
bringing
you?
back. Yeah, they did during the actual fair itself. The fair itself is run by a different company than what runs the speedway and the motocross track and the concerts bringing in. They book different concerts during the fair. It's a different company, but they booked a lot of. It was like everybody tribute act, but all those tribute acts they brought in were like first class. They sounded great.
Yeah, they had a Guns N' Roses one was over there too, right?
All that, yeah, I was there. They had a Kiss one. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and it was just great because we've all been locked up so long with the pandemic and not being able to go out. And it was like the first summer where we were kind of allowed to do stuff here in New York State. And dude, the fair set records of attendance because there was absolutely nothing to do. And everybody's like, let's go to the fair. There were nights when people wanted to go see those shows that you couldn't even park at the fairgrounds because there were so many people at the fair. You had to wait a half hour to get like a beer or soda. It was crazy.
Yeah. All right, so let's bring it back to the shop for a little bit. So what time period would you say, music-wise, you were absolutely killing it? Like, best sales period?
Well, in the 80s, in the 90s, I mean, things changed when iTunes came out and streaming and all that stuff. I mean, of course, that hurt sales. And some people still talk to me today, you own a record shop still? Nobody buys those. How do you stay in business? You know, it's like, so it was in the late 2000s, I would say, we almost went out of business because we weren't selling CDs that much because, you know, you could get it on your phone or whatever. And we decided then, we had a bunch of pinball machines in the shop at that time. We decided, well, it's either we close up or, you know, I'm talking about, it's mainly me. I'm the guy. Me and my wife, you know, make the decision. But I said, well, what we're going to do is I'm going to sell most of the pinball machines. I think I kept 4 old ones. And I made the head shop like twice as big. The smoke shop was enlarged. And it totally turned the business around because we had to make up for the loss of sales from the music stuff. And we still sold our, you know, our metal to our metal people, but some people didn't need to buy it or didn't care to have a CD anymore. They liked having whatever, you know, streaming service instead. But we turned it around and somehow we made it through. Then we made it through till now. Somehow it's up and down, you know. We moved the store in 2019. We couldn't get a lease at the old spot. I didn't plan on ever moving from there. I was a nervous wreck. I'm like, how am I going to move this location? This is where people know I've been, you know, and I didn't know. And at that time, the economy was booming and Middletown was booming. You couldn't find a place to move to. Like there was no spots for rent downtown. It's starting to come back now. But I found a spot. I started looking around because my landlord did not want to give me a lease. And he was selling the building, so I didn't know. You know, somebody else could have came in and said, hey, you got 30 days to get out. So I started looking and I found a new spot uptown and you know, it's been good from there. But of course we got it and we set up and we had everything all nice. We're up by the brewery now, we're up by all the eateries, and here comes the pandemic and we get shut down. So
I don't want to get into politics, but it seems like the COVID stuff is trending downward, which is good.
Let's keep our fingers
crossed. Like I'm a musician too. Like I do I go to bars and I play acoustic covers for like 3 hours.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, so I've been getting gigs during the winter, but like you said, fingers crossed. Like everybody's a little bit more lax now and stuff. Like the hope is by the time summer comes, it's it's gonna be a boom. Everybody's gonna keep coming out.
It'll be similar to last summer because if you remember last summer, we kind of thought we were out of this thing too.
Yeah. Yeah,
for
sure.
Saying take the mask off, we're gonna be good, and we really until the Delta wave came, we were really things got busy. Like you said, the fair was popping, the concerts were going at Bethel Woods. So I think this year, let's keep our fingers crossed. Maybe things will get back to fairly normal.
Yep, absolutely. So right now, what is like the best selling kind of things you have there?
In my shop right now, I can tell you what, I haven't been working too much because I'm a caregiver to someone in my family. So I up there here and there, but literally when like the virus rates are up, I've been spending most of my time home taking care of my loved ones. And my new employees go, holy shit, I can't believe how many people come in and buy vinyl.
That's what people are buying. They're not buying CDs anymore. Like you said, it's completely going full circle.
We still get in. I'd say a new metal release comes out. Let's say like the new Korn comes out.
Yeah.
We probably get the same amount of both. And we sell most all the CDs, but the vinyl in general, not talking new release, it's just back stock. Like you can't get Fleetwood Mac Rovers. You can't keep that in stock. we're having a hell of a time with supply chain of getting new vinyl. But
Mm-hmm.
we've been selling tons of vinyl, and we sell a lot of used vinyl because, and that's even getting harder to find because as soon as we get it, I mean, people just come in and buy it up, man. I had a bunch of Iron Maiden singles the other day. I put it up on my Instagram, just me leafing through the crate, and there were people in line outside, like, where are those records? Are they still here? And then I had so many people calling me over the weekend. Hey, put those aside for me. Like, dude, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, vinyl's been hot, and the pinball room has been really good. Like, people have been coming to play pinball, and like, there's days where the actual shop doesn't make much money, but like the pinball thing is really crowded because downtown seems to be coming back because we got Equilibrium, we got Taps, we got all these restaurants, and people seem to like to come downtown and make a day of it. They come play pinball with me, and they go to Holy Dog, of course, our famous hot dog guy Chino.
Yeah. So if they're coming to play pinball, they can literally just walk in and just play. They don't have to pay anything.
Well, you have to pay to play the games. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You put the
they're
quarters.
anywhere from 50 cents to $1 a game, the newer ones, and we have a change machine or whatever there. So you bring your quarters, the dollar bills for the validators, and you come play pinball. And a lot of people will come. Some people will come look at records, and their girlfriend or boyfriend might go play pinball or something. So it's an experience. So we have over 100 blacklight posters too. That's another thing.
Yeah.
As you can see, I like blacklight. So.
Yeah. Yeah, like you were saying about the vinyl, when I was kind of getting my studio together, I'm going to move my camera real quick, but I was looking for a Beatles. See, this is what I ended up getting.
Oh, that was the record that we had there, and you got it for a decoration. Yes.
Yeah, like I have no intention. I don't even have one of those machines. It's decoration, but like I went in there looking for like Sergeant Pepper or Rubber Soul. Like no shot. They were all like obscure, B-side stuff like that. Like the supply.
I think what you're talking to, I had a collection. Actually, someone I grew up with passed away, and this guy come in with all these records, and I had his name on them. I'm like, dude, these are somebody I know, and I didn't realize the guy had passed away, and this was his collection that we had. And this guy was a big Beatles collector. But yeah, it's tough to get Rubber Soul and stuff and keep it, especially used in stock. They go out so quick.
Yeah. So, what was the decision to start up Rock Fantasy Files?
Good question. A friend of mine for years has been doing the Sea of Tranquility channel. He's placed in Newburgh, longtime customer, longtime friend. Peter Pardo does a Sea of Tranquility website, which was mainly based on prog music, but he delved into metal. And I've done his show for years. He'd always do a year-end show where he'd come to the shop and we'd talk about our top, releases of whatever year. And during the pandemic, I had a friend of mine that was in New York City that's a member of the rock and roll, like working press, I called him, and he goes, you should do your own thing, and I started it up in 2020 because I wanted to keep the shop alive. Somehow at that time we didn't know if we were going to live or die, we're going to open again, we didn't know, but everything was closed, and
yeah,
we started to do that. It helped me promote music and gave me another sense of purpose, I guess you would say, being able to sit and talk. And dude, we had some great episodes. I got to talk to some people in the business that pinch me. I'm sitting here in my room and I'm hanging out with guys from Black Sabbath and Death Angel and, name all the bands, and became such good friends, especially last winter on the channel. About a year ago, if we go back a year, it was me with just band members from all different bands just hanging out, talking about different music, whether it's, death metal or thrash metal or whatever. It was mostly metal, some classic rock. But this year, the channel's evolved because, knock on wood, most of the band members are on the road or working again. So I've just got a lot of people that are fans of music talking about different bands. And we do interviews with a lot of bands that are putting out new records through the record labels. But, I'm not very professional. You can see I got a really shitty camera right now. But my other laptop broke, and I'm working on one somebody donated to me for now. I'm looking to buy a whole setup for that. But right now, it's no frills, no special effects, just me and a mic and friends, like we just did a black metal episode called on Immortal and Emperor, but we cover everything from the Doors to Deep Purple to classic rock. And it's just something that happened because of the pandemic. I would have never started without the pandemic, but now I keep trying to do it, and it helps keep, also because we launched the the store online too, so you could buy music and have it shipped wherever from our distributor. And plus we sell our Rock Fantasy shirts, some of our reaction toys and blacklight posters, so you can order them around the country, and we ship everywhere in the United States.
Yeah, so I was going through
that's one reason I started too, to gain interest to the channel, to the website and the store in general. So
yeah, you guys have some serious views on there. There's some episodes where you're into the thousands.
It's been good. Yeah, I tell you what. Now Peter Pardo's channel, Sea of Tranquility, like we would do it every year, and we get like 80 views, and all of a sudden, like Pete just blossomed, and he gets like we do Monday Night Square, Hudson Valley Squares every Monday, and he gets anywhere from 15 to 20,000 views every week. It's crazy. Like people have stopped watching regular television or watching like guys sitting around talking about music. Yeah, or I notice a lot of channels now where you'll get people that don't literally listen to rock that put headphones on and like review an album, and dude, they get so many views.
Well, I just talked to this guy, and I released it today. He does reaction videos, right? So on TikTok and YouTube, but on TikTok, dude, like he has some videos. His top one is like 6 million. 6 million views for a 20-second reaction video.
Wow.
And he's got a couple in the millions. Like, that's I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I'm 31 years. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in the era of. I started with CDs. I don't know if you remember when Media Play. It was in the South Hills Mall in Poughkeepsie, which it ended up closing.
Oh, we had a Media Play here in Middletown too. Yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like I bought my first Korn CD over there.
Yeah.
Like that's what I started with. And then
Media Play,
iTunes came out, and I was a teenager. Everybody had to get their iPod and stuff. And now this TikTok thing is going on, and everybody's looking for less and less kind of content in videos. Like you want 20 seconds of reaction and nothing else. And I'm trying to navigate the waters, and it's
I know what you mean. And I it's like our videos on my channel, sometimes like they're an hour and a half.
Yeah,
we're just talking about music, and people don't have the attention span sometimes to watch something that long.
I prefer the long form stuff, me personally. Like it as if the host is gonna ask the questions people want to know, and the guest is gonna answer them pretty much truthfully, I'll listen to 4 or 5 hours of it if it's good content.
I mean, definitely. There's so many podcasts. That how big podcasts are now. It's crazy. Yeah. Or people watch podcasts that are on like than watching regular television.
Yeah, at my house we have Hulu Live, but the cable's cut. I don't listen to radio anymore. I can't listen to radio anymore because it's like when you have I do Spotify. Like you put the radio on and it's like the commercials, they drive me nuts. Like one channel will have a commercial, and then you go to another channel and that one's in a commercial. So you end up clicking 4 different channels. They're all commercials. It's like, okay, I can't. I want content,
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, so you said you're 61 now.
Hey, don't keep reminding me. I'm not telling you my age anymore.
So, how long do you plan on running the store for, and do you have a retirement strategy? Like, who would take it over?
Well, I don't know. I didn't think I'd ever. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. It's my life pretty much. So yeah, I guess you want to relate me in rock fantasy to like Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. I might say I'm going to retire in a couple of years. I'm kind of retired now because I call it pandemic retired because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a caregiver to someone and I don't dare, bring the virus home to them. So I really have cut back on my extra things. I mean, I've even doing Instacart lately and getting the groceries put in the back of the car and just going up in the shop. And when not that many people are around, I go up every morning. But I don't know. I don't. We almost sold the store about 20 years ago to another person that was in the metal community, and I thought I was going to open a store in Florida. But to answer your question, I don't have any plans on retirement. And I would hope to be able to keep the store alive, even if I, passed or whatever when it eventually happens. And I mean, right now, I have a group of good people that are running my store daily. And so I'm kind of retired now. I call myself because it's been 2 years I've been sitting here doing this now. It's kind of
Yeah.
like I didn't plan on, we what was it, 10 days. We were like, I can stay on for 10 days. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, I got people working. Even before the pandemic, I was only working by myself, maybe 2 days a week. My shop's pretty big and you almost need two people in there at times. But I've had a group of young kids that have been running my shop and they've been doing a great job. So to answer your retirement, I'm kind of semi-retired now because I'm home helping out with things every day by 3 o'clock. It's very rare that I'm up there that late.
Yeah. Well,
But I hope that I have a 5 year lease in this location, so we're here for another at least 3 years at least, and we'll see what happens after that.
all right, good. Well, I'm not done with you yet. I still have another question, but
Okay.
I just want to say, like, your store is important. Like, it's big. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of an old school guy. The era I grew up with, like, we had CDs, we had physical things. Now I can still enjoy Spotify, and that's my primary way of getting music. But I feel like there is a need for stores like yours. In Poughkeepsie, there's Dark Side Records, but
Oh, Dark Side became pretty big. Yeah, they're a
yeah,
big record shop.
but
Yeah.
you can't underestimate the importance of being able to walk into a music store. Like, your shop is cool, man. Like, there's
Thank you.
posters, T-shirts. Even if you're not buying anything, just to walk in there and go through the vinyl and stuff. It's
Yeah.
important, and like I hope that, like, my daughter is almost 2 years old. I hope that by the time she's 15, 16, like I was as a kid, like, that's
Yeah.
not completely gone. So just I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you, and
Everything's learning. You never
yeah.
know. You can't predict the future.
Yeah, for sure. So, name of my show is, and I think you'll appreciate this because you put a post up recently kind of about this. Headbangers at the Hangar is the name of my show. Now,
Oh, it is. Okay.
yeah, so that's a tribute to the Megadeth song Hangar 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the alien UFO talk. So I always ask my guests at the end of the interview what their thoughts are on the subject, since there's been a lot of activity going on over the last couple years as far as sightings, what the government's willing to admit. So what are your personal thoughts about everything that's been going on that subject?
I haven't paid much attention to any of it because I just have a hard time consuming everything else going on with COVID and all the unrest and divide. It's just my cup is usually full, and I was like, don't tell me that we're having alien invasion on top of this. I don't think I can handle it. And maybe Godzilla is being sighted in the Pacific Ocean next. Anything could happen right now.
Yeah.
So when I was a small kid, though, alien-wise, I would say right across from my house, I was with one of my childhood friends, probably in our single digits, maybe 8, 9 years old. Remember seeing something like in the sky that was just like hovering, and it just disappeared, and we were like, "What the hell is that?" And that's the only thing I've ever said that I've ever seen anything weird. I have some good friends, another guy that does my channel a lot, that does a blog just on aliens. So I might, after we get off the air, I'll put you in touch with him.
Yeah, for sure. What do you
But,
think?
you know,
If
we're in a
somebody put
hotbed.
If somebody put a gun to your head, would you say they exist or no?
I don't know. I guess so. I guess so. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on UFOs.
All right, that's all right. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Yep. Like I said, it's an honor. You're a local legend, you know.
Well, thank you very much for all the love.
Yep, absolutely. All right, man. Well, you have yourself a good night, okay?
Check me out on YouTube, Rock Fantasy.
Yeah, go ahead. Promote yourself some more. Just give the people everything.
Yeah,
Rock Fantasy. Tell them where they could find all your stuff.
RockFantasy.com, Rock Fantasy downtown Middletown. And if you're in the area, I don't know if people watch this show from all around the world or not.
That's the plan.
And how many are you? So this channel, just so I know, this channel, is this a YouTube channel and it's also a podcast too?
Yeah, right now it's just on YouTube. Like, as I go on, if it gets more traction, like obviously to get on like Spotify, you have to pay. It's not a lot of money, but still, it's like, you know, you gotta. If I get traction over here, then I'll branch out.
We're all trying. I mean, I'm new to this game too, and I had a couple guys. I just did the Rock Fantasy Files with 3 new people, and I had a guy, Miles of Metal, that was on from Louisiana. He's only got a few viewers. He just started up recently. So, in fact, I'm going to have you as a guest on the Rock Fantasy File.
I would love to. As we discussed, you're doing a breakdown of 2 of my favorite albums: Around the Fur by the Deftones, Perseverance by Hatebreed, which is like, I've probably listened to that album more than any other album in my life because I'm a runner. So when I'm running, like if I got a dig, that's the album I pull out. I fucking love that album. I love Hatebreed. I could talk up and down about that album. And you mentioned Untouchables by Korn, which is a good album. Not my favorite, but certainly
probably not my favorite either. But we're doing these in order just because they're anniversary editions, right? 20th anniversary. Yeah.
So if you ever need me for any of the new metal stuff, like that's my.
I'm gonna grab you by the shirt and bring you over for those.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. All that new metal, Deftones, Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, Korn, like that's all my stuff. So.
I like certain ones. I don't like certain other ones. I'm not into Limp Bizkit at all, but I love Korn. I love Deftones.
What about Linkin Park?
Linkin Park, nah, not me.
No.
Nah.
Yeah, it's
maybe a little Disturbed here.
Yeah, Disturbed's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, if you ever need me,
I used to do all the Ozfests in the 2000s. We'd go every year, so I got to see all those bands. And my wife is a huge Jonathan Davis Korn fan, and I think the new Korn's pretty good. The Nothing album was good too. Like my death metal elitists think I'm a poser, so I can't talk about it with them.
A lot of people are trashing Requiem, which it's like my response to that would be like, what are you expecting? Like you know that they've already put out their best stuff. Oh, yeah. Like that's done.
It's not horrible.
It's not bad. And I explained it on my channel also. Like at this point in your career, they've already built up a legacy. I just don't want you to suck at this point. And I didn't think it sucked. I thought it was lukewarm, which is fine. It had Korn elements.
Probably grow on you some, I think.
I thought it was good though.
I thought the Nothing was a strong release.
That was
I stopped listening for years because they got really into that Skrillex, and I'm pronouncing it wrong, but like they got real into the techno there for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, I fell out of that time period too.
I thought they came back pretty strong, and the Deftones have been strong all on too. I like the album Gore, but I think that's not their strongest album, but I dug it. I saw that tour.
Nah, their best is White Pony, if you ask me.
And there's some good stuff. But anyhow, that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, let's not make 2 episodes into one, you know? All right, man. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Yep.
Again, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.